You drop past the last trace of sunlight into a blue that turns almost black. With every meter, the water feels heavier and less familiar. Above you, the surface shrinks to a pale glow and then disappears. You are alone with the hum of the sub and a slow drift of falling particles. The temperature falls in a sharp step as you cross the thermocline. Warm layers vanish behind you, replaced by cold, dense water that clamps against the hull. A deep current slams across your path and shoves the sub sideways. Down here, the water acts like a moving wall that any living cell must resist. Then everything grows quiet. No fish cross the beams, no sounds reach the hull. Only a constant snow of organic dust falls past your window. Out of the dark, a rock face appears, rising like a submerged cliff. The trench wall stretches beyond the lights, scarred where the planet has torn itself open. A sudden blue flash cuts across the frame and vanishes. It is not a reflection or a fault. It is a living signal from something that speaks in light. You trigger sonar, and a pulse rolls outward into the black. Echoes return as jagged outlines of towers, ledges, and shapes that hint at motion before they fade. Within one echo, a faint silhouette drifts at the very edge of detection. Larger than the sub and irregular in outline, it moves as if this pressure is normal. At last, the descent ends, and the sub settles into a cloud of pale sediment. As dust clears, the trench floor appears below, silent, waiting, and not fully empty. Billions of years ago, Earth's oceans boiled under a violent sky. Storms struck the water with heat and minerals, creating the conditions where chemistry could begin to change. Inside these early oceans, simple molecules collided again and again. Each collision formed short chains that held together, just long enough to shape the next reaction. Amino acids started linking into longer structures. Some chains curled, some folded, and a few began to copy simple parts of themselves with imperfect accuracy. Near the vents, mineral-rich plumes rose from deep fractures. Here, heat met chemicals in a way that allowed complex reactions without the need for sunlight. Primitive cells formed around these reactions. Soft membranes held together long enough to trap energy, protect fragile chemistry, and give early life its first boundary. Generations passed, and the ocean darkened as the planet cooled. Cells that once depended on light slowly lost the parts they no longer needed. Instead of sunlight, heat gradients powered survival. Warm zones fed reactions, and cooler zones pulled products away, forming a cycle of energy that repeated endlessly. Inside tiny rock pores, new microworlds appeared, sheltered from violent currents. These cracks held stable pools where small communities could grow in safety. Growth moved slowly in these pockets. A single division could take hours or days, yet each step pushed life toward structures that could survive long-term by the time the ocean settled. Darkness had already become home. Life learned to survive without sunlight and without speed, preparing for the pressure-filled world that waited in the deep dots at these depths. Skin must bend with pressure instead of resisting it. The bodies that survive here stretch like soft armor, shifting without breaking dot inside each cell. Salt and fluids stay in perfect balance. Tiny pumps move ions in and out with precision so the membrane never collapses under weight. Bones soften into cartilage that flexes instead of cracking. This structure allows movement where rigid skeletons would fail in an instant. Energy comes from chemical reactions rather than sunlight. Organisms collect minerals, absorb heat, and use reactions as a constant internal fuel source. Entire communities grow around vent towers. Each layer supports a different species, forming a vertical ecosystem built on heat and chemistry. Predators navigate without vision. Instead, they sense vibrations in the water, mapping tiny movements the way others use light. Bodies turn transparent to conserve energy and avoid drawing attention. With no sunlight to reflect, organs glow softly inside clear tissue. Metabolism slows to a pace almost beyond measurement. A heartbeat may come once every few seconds, saving energy and extending lifespan. Some microbes use metal as both armor and nutrient. They coat themselves in mineral layers that protect their structure and feed chemical reactions. Flexibility becomes key. Many creatures bend in smooth motions that match the pressure, shaping themselves to the environment without resistance. On the rocks, microbes dissolve minerals directly. They leave etched trails that show how they feed on the very walls of the trench. Species evolve in isolation. Their shapes follow patterns that developed alone, without influence from the world above. What happens inside a single cell guides what happens across entire systems. A change at the microscopic level becomes visible at the scale of the trench. Movement here is nearly silent. Every action is absorbed by water so dense that even a large creature drifts without a sound. On vent walls, microbial mats form thick colonies. Each layer adds structure and stability to the ecosystem around it. Inside narrow cracks, hidden communities thrive. These passages shelter life that never leaves the mineral corridors it grows within. Proteins fold in ways that resist crushing pressure. Their structure bends without breaking and maintains function in conditions that destroy most molecules. Heat pulses from vents drive sudden reactions. Creatures respond instantly, adjusting membranes and chemistry to avoid damage. Every organism depends on another. Feeding chains form simple but vital links, supporting survival in a world where resources change slowly. At the top waits a quiet predator shaped by darkness. It moves with slow confidence, built from traits that only pressure and time can create. On the surface, a research vessel holds the weight of the mission. Its reinforced hull and restless engines face the open sea as the team prepares for descent. Submersible enters the water with controlled precision. Its frame locks against the waves before it slips below, carrying sensors built for extreme pressure. A long tether cable connects the sub to the ship. Through this thin line, every signal, image, and measurement travels between the surface and the deep. Navigation lights activate as the sub sinks. Red and green beams cut through the growing darkness, marking direction where vision begins to disappear. In the lab, engineers test the pressure housing. They examine welded seams and thick plates built to survive forces that crush ordinary steel. Sonar pulses map the trench floor. Echoes return with the shape of ridges, towers, and slopes, revealing a landscape no human eye can see directly. A robotic arm extends toward a vent wall. It drills gently into brittle mineral layers to collect a core that holds thousands of years of chemical history. Chemical sensors dip into hot vent fluid. They read temperature, acidity, and mineral content. Sampling the water molecule by molecule, micro drones move into cracks the sub cannot reach. Small lights guide them through narrow passages where hidden organisms may thrive. Thermal cameras scan rising plumes. Heat flows upward in ribbons and sheets, showing how vents shape the area around them. In a steel chamber, pressure tests recreate the abyss. Samples compress under controlled force, while instruments measure how materials respond. Digital simulations model how creatures might behave.